Now I'd like to switch over to Erik for the part around Dynamics 365 negotiations.
Thanks, Floris. Great stuff. And I think very complex stuff as well. This is even for us. This is high level Microsoft licensing. So yeah, very complicated. And what really triggered me to set up this part from the presentation is the price increases Floris has discussed. In our time at Microsoft, we have seen that Dynamics price increases are announced like 1-2 times a year. And it's not like it's a few percent like it is with the modern workplace technology. No, it's really like 50 till 80% price increase. And that's also the reason why you should be very careful when you go into negotiation with Microsoft with regards to this topic, because this is not mainstream technology. This is strategic solution to Microsoft. So you should be very cautious when choosing for Dynamics 365. Because this will be a long-term decision. You will not choose for Dynamics 365 and choose for another supplier 3 years later. So you should be cautious. We have made some notes about that in our presentation today. We see a lot of clients that already have made their decision whether to go for vendor A, B, C, or in this case, as we stated in the presentation, SAP, Oracle, or perhaps another supplier. In most cases, clients are already communicating to Microsoft that they have chosen for the software. And this is not a very smart thing to do from a negotiation perspective, because if you have already selected your supplier and everyone from your organization is sending that message to Microsoft, you should be aware that, yeah, it would be most likely that you're not be aiming for the best discount that you'll be getting from that deal. So yeah, we have our own approach in order to get you that best deal. So we're going to share that with you in this session. So our first tip is to keep everything confidential within your organization and do not select a vendor just based upon the good news you have seen or by having a good relationship with Microsoft. Be very cautious about that, because in the end you will have to pay more than a client that is setting this up in a compete model. And this is something we would recommend. So always set this up in a compete model. Do not pick Microsoft on its own, but pick several vendors that will be able to help you with this, because Microsoft is not the only one who can deliver this, unless they're modern workplace technology, where they are very dominant and leading in. This is still strategic for them, and that will help you. So in order to do that, you should determine your license requirement. As Floris has entailed, it's very complex to do this in 1 day or 2 days. So you should be very you should be very thorough when it comes to doing your internal homework. So determine your license subscription requirements for the next 5 years. Do not do that just for the start or the beginning, but try to anticipate what will happen from day one until 5 years or so. Normally, Microsoft agreements are 3 years, but we see that Microsoft does do a lot of 5-year agreements when it comes to Dynamics 365. So you should take that into consideration, that try to negotiate a 5-year deal. You will have your price protection. You will not be affected by crazy price increases during that 5 year. So try to include that in your bill of material towards selecting a new vendor for this technology. In the end, it should not be about the highest discount when it comes to selecting a vendor. You should take a look at the whole total cost of ownership. A very high discount can be attractive, but in the end, if you're paying much in a 5-year TCO calculation, that's also not something you would want. So try to not focus on the discount, but try to see what it really costs, because it will not only be the licensing cost you will be making, it's also the cost of implementation of the tool. And in the end, try to postpone your decision, because if you can postpone it until a time frame that it will suit you and your negotiation towards Microsoft, then it will be very helpful for your result as well. So in the end, we've decided to do some do's and don'ts. This is the slide about the do's. Do a multi-funder selection process. If you bet on only one horse, the horse will become very expensive for you. Microsoft will know that you will be selecting them, therefore they will not provide you a very high discount. And you need to do a lot of work in order to get the price and negotiation you want to. So, having said that, it is very recommendable to do the competitive approach in the EEP market, because Microsoft is not the market leader here. There are other parties, for instance, SAP, Oracle, which are much more mature and perhaps offer better technology even than Microsoft in this frame. So ensure you are using this in your benefit, even though if you have selected Microsoft in the back of your head, do entail this with several partners. Do not bet on one horse. And having said that, we already touched it. Go for a 5-year agreement, because if there will be new licensing rules or price increases, you will at least be not affected for 5 years. And when it comes to 5-year agreements, Microsoft on the modern workplace part is not too eager in providing you that. But when it comes to strategic solutions like Dynamics 365, you will probably get the 5-year agreement negotiated. And then if it's possible and feasible for you, you can also use this in your benefit with your active enterprise agreement renewal. Because this is strategic to them, Microsoft more or less tends to, let the discounts on the enterprise agreement, they will be more flexible, and there will be more opportunity for you to negotiate a deal at one cycle. So not only doing the stuff you require for Dynamics 365, but try to combine it. Try to see whether it's possible for you to come up with a solution where you can negotiate a better deal with the Dynamics requirement from your organization. So timing is of the essence here. If it's possible to plan that within between your annual true-up moment, or perhaps your upcoming EA renewal, and have the selection process for the ERP supplier as well, that would be ideal. So if you are able to plan that, please do that. Then the don'ts. Already briefly touched it. Do not let Microsoft or the vendors know what your choice is. Try to postpone that until the very, very last, because in the end, if the vendor, in this case Microsoft, will know what you will be selecting, you will probably not get the discount you will be aiming for. And the discounts in this market can be very, very, very attractive and can be very, very competitive. But you should play the game at the highest level. So try to postpone that decision. Same applies as for modern workplace. Do not buy the whole suite if you don't need it. We see, of course, that Microsoft is aiming with very aggressive discounts, 60, 70, 80%. It all is possible if you buy the highest suite. But in most cases, this is not something you would aim for, because not every user requires the full suite. So profiling is of the essence here. Try to apply all the stuff that Floris has shared with you, because with that information you can make your profiles and negotiate a better deal that's good for you and your company. And another thing we see is that the partners are getting a more and more dominant position within all of the companies, where a lot of companies are now outsourcing everything. So also their ERP system. We see that the partners get a more and more dominant position in their organization. You should be aware of that, and choose for a model that suits you and not the partner. So also be very reluctant in communicating all this stuff to your partner, because in the end, you will have to pay a price for that. Regarding partners, you should determine whether your partner is a Microsoft-only partner or not. Why? Because if you have a partner that's solely based on living from Microsoft licenses, they could be biased in their offering and not offering you the best deal for you as a whole, where they cannot be transparent about the price you pay for your licensing combined with the service, but they triple charge you an amount per year, for instance, not knowing if you are paying the right price for the license. So yeah, be cautious about that. Just take into consideration that if you have a partner that's able to provide you ERP services through not only Microsoft, they will probably be more transparent, and the price you will pay in the end will be better. Yeah, having said that, well, we see a lot of partners charging just one fee per year, or not being transparent about the price you will have to pay for your licenses. Ask transparency from your Microsoft partner or your ERP partner, because by giving transparency, you will probably know if you are overpaying for your licenses, and then you will be able to save more money when it comes to ERP subscriptions. And again, re-emphasizing, be careful with which information you will be sharing with your partners and towards Microsoft. Because if you share too much information, it will probably bite you up up the butt when it comes to the end. So yeah, again, re-emphasizing, be cautious about that. There are a lot of good Microsoft partners on board, but yeah, and this counts for everything when it comes to Microsoft and negotiation. Do never bet on one horse.